All right. Sweet. You ready?
Yeah, I reckon I'm ready.
Welcome back to Danny Rants. This week we have a very special guest and a very special episode. I'm doing an exclusive. One of the biggest questions I get asked is how do I get into the music industry? So I thought, fuck it. I'm going to do a whole tell-all how to get into the music industry, from festivals to nightclubs to booking, all the things you didn't know exist, with a guy who I would say is a jack of all trades and done it all, Mr. Daniel McFayden, aka Macca from Happen. What is happening, my man?
Mate, I'm just happy to be here. This is first podcast. So excited, and yeah, it's something that we've been actually focusing on this year, like sharing knowledge, and sharing knowledge on how to get into the industry and all the different like sort of facets of it that make up, what you see at the end of the day, because there's so much behind the scenes that goes into it, and every single one of them is a job or a department, but a lot of people, one, don't know they exist, and two, don't know how to get into them. So it's it's interesting that you're wanting to go down that path on this chat, because it's essentially what we've been talking about a lot with people, and just like, instead of gatekeeping that information, putting it out there.
And that's been a big thing for me, as you know, from the start, hence why you've been a massive supporter, so I thank you for that. But for me, it's like, why the fuck are we gatekeeping this shit? It doesn't make any sense, right? Like, we all love what we do. It's the best. Yeah. So why are we not telling people what goes on?
Yeah, I think it's like, to be honest, it comes back to that like old school promoter vibe, like back, sort of when you wind the clock back to, your 10 years ago, where it was like, it's brutal at the moment between promoters in Melbourne, but like back then it was even more full on. So it was like, keep everything to yourself. If you learn a new thing, if you've got an event weapon, like, you want to keep them as yours. You want to like not let them work for anyone else, and and that's just I think it's just backwards, because
it doesn't promote growth.
It doesn't promote growth, and also one promoter doesn't have enough events to keep a casual hospo, like someone that's in charge of hospitality, employed for the whole year, so, but if they can chop around and do it for a few different companies, not only are they able to sustain themselves, but they're also able to learn and grow so much more.
Get better at it.
Because, the difference for us, like in working in one facet of it that we do, which is like artist hospitality, artist dressing rooms, logistics, flights, accommodation, hotels, the changes when you're looking after like a rapper, like a Busta Rhymes or something like that, versus looking after, a DJ like the Chaos and the CBD Boys, is chalk and cheese. There's like, it's completely different things. Like, for one group of people where, needing to get Lambos, we're needing to get fucking Rolls Royces, they won't turn up in this. You have to get a fucking police escort, like all of this sort of stuff. And then for the others, they're like, I'll get myself to the thing, and like, I'll just like, if there's just like a beer there for me, then, that's cool. So if you just experience one side of that, then you're missing out on, the complete other side of like that whole world of artist services.
I think people are going to get super interested in this, because I know we were at A3 together, sort of doing a bit of partying, but doing a bit of traveling around the site, mucking around. And we kept bumping into people we knew, and it was everyone from the security managers to the stage managers to the people that are doing the advancing. And obviously you knew them all because you had played a part in that, or you've worked in that industry for a long time, as did I. And as we're going along, that kind of is where this idea came from for me, because I was like, people don't know this fucking world exists and how they do it and how to put it together, or like these roles are even a thing. So I'm super excited to deep dive into it. But before we do that, right, we've known each other for, I reckon, 15 years maybe.
Yeah, it'll be 15, I reckon.
And so for those who don't know, before you sort of started working in this space of kind of like the periphery of festival market, music industry, et cetera, you originally were a promoter.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little bit of a backstory of like who you were?
Yeah, for sure.
I should say.
So I guess my love for events was there from the start. And when I was like 19, I was looking around and I was going, I would love to just be in charge of this, because the biggest driver for me, and it always has been, and this is the barometer that I always come back to, is looking around a room and seeing if you're making core memories for someone else, then that's like my biggest motivator. And I think that that's been like one of the reasons that we've been able to ride the waves, because it's not about the money. The money's awesome sometimes, the money's not awesome sometimes. But if you're looking around a room and you're seeing someone smile, hug, like, and it's going to be a night that they're going to remember for the rest of their life, then that's such a gift. So I was sort of at that point where I was like, one, I also wanted to go out and drink for free. So I was like, okay, well, why don't I just like pitch it to this venue? It was the first one I did was called Pants Off Thursdays at Station Hotel, and it was like a pre-drinks before we went, and I was working with the guys at Seven Nightclub, and I was working with Sammy Prosser at Track at the time, like, just as like a low-level promoter. And again, it was just like, back then it was more like, there'd be some people that would get, you might get paid $50 to rock up, and then you'd get, your drinks for the night sorted. But they knew you were going to come with 30, 40 people, so it made sense for them. So I started off sort of like learning a little bit about promoting from that, and then going, all right, cool, I want to run my own nights. So I started running a Thursday night down in Brighton. And that was, we'd book the DJs, it was free entry, so we'd take like a clip of the bar as our payment, and then that sort of snowballed from there into, out the back was a car park, and it was a really old license, so it was technically still redlined, and so we were like, well, we can technically get away with throwing like a big old party out the back. And then, we had 3,000 people rock up on Christmas Eve. And that was, just a tipping point for me that was like, oh, one, this is amazing. But two, this could be a career. Like, I was at uni. My parents wanted me to, like, stay at uni and, and get it done. It was that old school thing where it was like, you go to school, you go to uni, and then you go and get a job. But the stuff that I was doing on the weekend, which was like, running this Thursday night, then getting running the snake pit at the George Snake Pit on Fitzroy Street on Fridays, and then Saturdays I was doing like a couple of different nights. We were doing boutique, and then I would run the recovery at the bottom end.
What was Survivor? Yeah.
No, Survivor was where I probably first started getting paid to go somewhere. And that was all based on, the numbers that you're coming through the door and everything like that, people that were using your guest list, all that jazz. But that was where I met your Joey Cervantes, Yanni Cervantes, fucking love to the above. Like Paul Lynch, who's now like crushing it at doing all the Live Nation electronic stuff. Dave Sticker, who's doing like all the Full Circle stuff. Like there was like back in that day, it was a like a melting pot of like all of us little ravers that and I think Mitch G was around a lot there. And Survivor was amazing because it was a clubbing experience that still I don't know has been topped in Melbourne. It was like the Baja guys, and then I think like some of the Sydney crew, like some of the Bang Gang crew maybe.
Michael Delaney obviously was.
Michael Delaney was involved in it, and like the Jensen Interceptors and stuff were sort of coming down. But my favorite thing about that club was it would finish at like 3 or 4 a.m. and Poof Doof was upstairs. So Hockers was upstairs. They'd finish at 4 a.m. as well. You walk down the same staircase together. So you've got like these 20-year-old to 25-year-old like rave kids listening to techno, and then you're walking down with like a 6'4" bear dressed in leather, and we would all walk down the stairs together to the bottom end, which was that bottom floor, and then it would be a party of whoever's left. So that would start at 4 and that would go until the sun started coming through the bars. But it was like this mad thing where it was like the last people standing, like from each of the crews, just absolutely meshing, like, and it was so smoky that you'd like pop out and you could either run into your mate or you could run into like someone like in full leather, just like with a gimp mask on. It was just like, it was awesome. Like Survival, I always think back to that. But yeah, I guess like back to your question, it was, started out promoting and running regular nights, which was awesome at the time because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be out with my mates. I wanted to be able to look after my mates. I wanted to be able to look after some of the crew that wanted to start DJing and stuff. And I also wanted to book artists that I'd like looked up to, you know, like the first time I booked Waxo Paradiso was like, you know, probably like 10 years ago. And like no one from Bayside had even heard of them. And I just stumbled upon them at Strawberry Fields and I was just like, this is like unbelievable.
There's a sharing thing to it, eh? Like it's like you hear something sick, you're like, "Fuck, I want everyone to hear this."
Oh yeah, and you want to. It's like, especially when it moves you, like when it moves you and it gives you that emotion. It's like that's a driver to then go and want to pass that emotion on to other people or a version of that. So it's quite cool in that regard. But yeah, so. From there, so it was like one of the nights I was running was at Half Moon, which was like a colonial leisure group venue. So and this is what I've sort of done my whole life. It's like you see an opportunity, and I didn't have any skills or anything in that area, but if you're hardworking and you want to have a crack, and you're also open to feedback and also ready to be wrong and not let that knock you off course, and just correct and try and not make the same mistake again, then I truly believe that you can, you know, jump in and do anything. So I saw that I heard like whispers that the Penny Black was struggling, and I was like, I know all these people that are running parties. I can go and book them in, and that's when like I think we did some parties there. We did the orchestrated
10-year party. We did like
party.
I did the winter series, the Debbie Does winter
some
series.
Of the Debbie Does stuff. Like I had Mango through a lot, like to the point where, you know, it went from that courtyard not getting used at all to
hottest venue in town,
and then shut down by the cops, like for just like it being consistently too loud.
They also, I'm pretty sure they swapped the speakers at some point from actual speakers to Logitechs.
Yeah. They tried to phase it out without losing the party.
I got a story where I was like, people were yelling like, "Turn it up!"
Yeah.
And I had the booth monitor and I turned it into the crowd and like popped it over the decks, trying to help with the sound. And then I was like, we can't do this anymore.
Nah. It gets to that point, and it's like it's such a shame because it's like. Everyone was loving it. Like, you know, it was working for everyone. The parties were selling out. The bar was getting absolutely smashed. But there was like one neighbor, you know, a few things down that was just on the blower to the cops like the entire time.
Which has also always been an issue in our industry. Sorry to clear my voice, but there's two parts to that, right? So the first one is going into this living and learning industry stuff. This is really early beginning stuff. A lot of people ask, how the fuck do I get into nightclubs? And the way is, traditionally you build a team. Like you go in as a promoter, you sort of get around the head promoter, who's the guy that's running the event. Then eventually you get asked to host is the term.
Yeah.
And then normally you'll build a team. So then you go from having your own guest list to having 40, 30, you know, promoters underneath you.
Yeah.
So you build these teams and you get paid upwards. It's like a pyramid scheme originally.
Yeah, it's a dead set pyramid scheme, and that's like I guess we'll get to that, but that's what, you know, ended up being like a pivotal thing for me when the sort of festival started kicking off. That was, you know, like when Beyond the Valley started, and, you know, I was already working with those boys. Like I used to run their recovery at the deep end, you know, and like back then I look at some of the flyers and I'm like, this is hilarious. Like I couldn't DJ for fucking shit, but like I'll put myself on the flyer sometimes, and like now I'm looking at it and it's like Dom Dollar, and it's like this and that, and like all
these massive artists.
All these massive artists, and it's like so cool that it was like back then. But yeah, I definitely needed to. I knew it was time for me to give up DJing when I played Piano Man twice at Stereosonic.
I think we've all done that.
Yeah.
Not a stereo, but every single DJ. I literally did it Revolver. I played one song into another song, but I'm like,
yeah, but if Piano Man, like, I think that's taking it too far.
So there's that part, and then I guess the transition for people who don't know is that once you build up a team, you get to a point where you're pushing 100, 200 heads through.
Yeah.
You take the dive. So you take the dive into running your own events, which is the scariest thing to do. But once you do that and you're successful, then you become a promoter. So you can start to run club nights, you can start to run events because you've built your team within this circle, and then you start to talk to the club owner directly, no longer the promoter, and you collab with people, right? So we've collabed on events, everyone collabs on events. Your business partner, Paris, he used to run these fucking sick disco parties that were called Burn City.
Burn City Disco, we ran. Paris started it, and then when we met, we actually met at in the living room of the Luber's house. So the guys that own the timber yard. And at that time, they were running a festival called the Petting Zoo, and they'd run it one year, but they were amazing operationally. They were amazing production wise. Like they could get the talent and everything, but in terms of moving tickets, they were just like, how can we sort of do this? So
they did it the other way around. Normally, you get good at the other stuff, but they were like good at the delivery stuff,
and then tried to do that way. And it's like, and like to their credit, they like they did their research and were like, who's moving numbers at the clubs and stuff at the moment. And I was working with Sammy Swain on the on my stuff down at Bayside, and then. So we went in together and then met this bloke, Paris, and it was just hilarious because it was like me and him were both managing artists, and like in terms of managing artists, again, that was another one that just like came about like, oh, I reckon I can learn how to do this. It obviously it's intricate and there's like things like that you're going to learn along the way, but I was sitting on the couch with Sean Rolt and Ollie on a Sunday. Mark of Memories, and they were my first artists, and they just came up as like we were just chatting, and they were talking about how they were thinking, like it would be good to have someone sort of repping us, and I was just like, oh, I'll do it for you boys, and it's like that's where it's been like this industry you can start in with. Oh, I'm so interested in this thing. But if your eyes are open, you can segue so quickly, but they can all feed back into each other.
You've done it the best, and that's why I invited you to do it, right? Because going back to the other one, when you started doing Penny Black, again, like there was bookers in band world, but there wasn't bookers in DJ event world, right? So there was a model that existed, but prior to that, we would just kind of be in the same nightclubs and whatever. You kind of went out and you did a lumber too. There was a whole bunch of them where you sort of recreated the space.
Yeah, I talked to like Nick Vass about this. I'd like so the two people that I started, and this is one thing that I would suggest for anyone wanting to get into the industry is try and do your own bits on the side, and then try and get a day a week somewhere or 2 days a week somewhere that supplement that and give you a bit of security, but also allows you to learn. So I worked 1 day a week at Thick as Thieves with Mike. And he didn't even have a role for me. He just said, I love what you're doing. I want you around. Let's just see and like what we can do. So I'd just go into the office and I'd just spitball and throw ideas at him, and then we'd go, all right, cool, this is a project that we want to work on, and rah. And I did, and then 2 days a week I did with Simon Digby and Bobby Love and Nick Vass, and that was when they owned like Miss Collins and Lumbra, and they had the bar contract for
XC54 too.
14, but when I started with them, they brought me on because they were starting XC54. So they were like, we want someone in that world to be the booker of the venue, But then it worked sort of perfectly because me and the Untitled guys were working so closely together that I was the booker for the venue in terms of booking in other parties outside of our regular Saturday night. But then I ran the Saturday night with the boys. So it was like this, perfect sort of melting pot.
There's a good part on that, man, like a piece of advice I want to sort of like, bring up. But you said it's always good to have supplementary income. So when people used to work for me, I used to say, people always say that I'm a pie fingerer, which I definitely am.
Yeah.
But you have to be. If you're going to work in this industry, there's not this clear thing where like, I want to be a manager. I want to be a promoter. I want to be a stage manager. It's like the industry, when you're starting out, is not large enough. So you have to be, I've done it all. A booker, an A&R for record labels.
Yeah.
A manager. I've been a promoter. You've got to like take every opportunity to make up an income to be able to stay in that industry.
100%. And it's not even just about making up the income. Making up the income definitely is like so important. But the best thing about doing all of those jobs, like putting up fucking fences, doing like, like doing some of the menial tasks, working the door, like I would go and work the door at my own events, like just because if you have done every job, then you know exactly what you're asking someone else to do when you become the boss. So you understand that like what a fair and reasonable request is. You also understand like, what it felt like when you were doing that. So I think that it's like all of those building blocks are almost the key to then being able to be a festival runner or a large scale promoter, because the business inside out, and not only what you're asking people to do, but what you should be seeing as an output from them.
And what works too, right? So like you talk about all the guys from Untitled to Thick as Thieves, this bunch you've mentioned today, but they've all done it. They all started at the start and they've built their way up, including myself, and yourself.
Yeah.
But it's like, I've done door girl, I've done, or door boy, I guess it's, or door person.
You probably had a wig.
Yeah. But I've fucking been door selector, I've been the promotion guy, the marketing guy, the booker, like I've done every single piece of it. And it's like, all of those things at times have gone too big for me to deal with, and I've found people. But again, you guys, yourself in Paris, you were doing the booking stuff for the venues, you were doing a whole bunch of stuff, but you guys continued to grow into this thing where you were kind of like a service-based people in a way before you were a company, where you were offering services to promoters who weren't able to juggle or weren't doing it as good as they possibly could.
Well, like that's it. Like a lot of promoters make the mistake of going, I'm going to save budget here by doing all this myself, or doing this with interns, or doing this with a team of like green friends, that don't know it, and that might look good on paper at the start, but then when all the mistakes come and the costs blow out because you've chosen someone that doesn't have the experience, then that's where like we do like. Now, like obviously one of our arms is artist services, so we looked after. I personally like just work on the team for a bit of fun at Strawberry Fields because I love Glenn and Annabelle, and like I love that team, and it's a family. And to me, Strawberry Fields is a holiday because I don't have to worry about whose flights are delayed, whose cars are delayed, anything like that. I'm just there to put out any spot fires and catch up with like a bunch of DJs that I already know and take them to stage. So that's mad. But then you get like the things where it's like Good Things Festival, for example, for us. The guys there, like Ash Ibrahim, big shout out. Like he's been the biggest mentor and one of the biggest pivotal like people in my life in the industry. And I said to him, mate, I want you to give us a chance at running the artist services for.
So I reckon because for people who are watching this, they're probably not going to know what artist services is, right? So can you kind of explain what artist services is, and then go into the story of some of the stories you've done with
for sure. Maybe I can even break it down as like because we've sort of spoken about how there's all these different things behind the scenes. So maybe I'll list out a bunch of them. Like I've touched on them, but it's like there's artist services, which can range from like full advance, which is when you're booking flights, hotels, transfer cars, and it's like that's like more logistics. So that's like we call that an advance because you do that before the show.
And the advanced term means that you're advancing an artist from wherever they are, could be England, to your show. So as a promoter, I'm booking someone I want someone to advance the artist to me. And there's another term that we use, kind of not related to this, but there's landed. So when you're doing like a deal and you're talking about buying an artist, say I'm buying fucking Patrick Topping, for example, I'll either say I want him landed or I want him delivered. So if I want him landed, that means that I want him in the country landed. If I want him delivered, it means that I want him advanced to my festival. So I don't have to think about it. I'm just going to say you're going to be here from 12 o'clock and you're going to leave at 1, but I don't give a fuck how you get here and how you leave. And that's the fee I'm going to pay.
And as a promoter, I'm like, deliver deals, because then you don't need like the head fuck. But it's
I'm a big delivered guy.
But then for these major festivals, like probably like Promised Land was probably the craziest one that we've ever done, and that was we were in charge of all flights, some international, but all domestic flights, all hotels. I think we spent like over like maybe 1.5 mil in hotels over the weekend, and all transfers. And so that's like, your everything down from your like your supercars and like the stuff that like some of these like big Afro pop stars and stuff won't rock up unless they're in the Lambo or in the Rolls Royce or whatever, down to like your Sprinters, which are like the big blacked out vans, to the Vianos, which are the smaller vans that are blacked out. And then you have your sort of like high aces, which you normally put your own drivers on, and it's like a daily rental, and that's like saves you costs, and that's for the like lower tier artists.
Or DJs, they're not as normally as
DJs like, most DJs I've picked up in my car. But when you've got a like, who's an example? When we had Summer Walker out and we were looking after her across 5 shows over 2 weeks across Australia and New Zealand, and she was traveling with 70 people. It's like, I'm not picking her up in the Subaru Outback. It's like she's got a bus for the touring team and this and that, and advancing is like, can be awesome if the person on the other end is a professional. But a lot of the time, artist teams, their TM, especially like Afro artists, it's their cousin, and there's no urgency and we're like, if you don't give us this information in the next week, we can't get you a visa and we can't get you into a country, and you're getting paid $1 million a show. So get us the info, sort of thing.
So breaking it down from that, right? Like in that team, so you talk about artist service being one, right? There's a whole the other stuff we're going to go through, but like artist service being one of the largest, probably the most important thing when it comes to a festival. But how many people could be on a festival could work for that?
So for an advance, which is like all of those logistics it just sort of depends. It depends on the amount of artists and everything like that. For Good Things Festival, we look after the hospitality and their dressing rooms and like a bit of AL, like which I'll sort of get to, which is more of the on-ground stuff. And for that, we have sort of 3 people working across that project over the time that it starts until the time that it's delivered, to make sure that every dressing room is absolutely perfect. Every hospital order's done. Things are done in a way where, the festival's saving money. Like we changed the entire back of house dressing room design in Sydney because the tickets were slower in Sydney, and that back of house design caused us crazy headaches, caused the artists a little bit of confusion because they were having to go across 3 levels on one elevator, but it saved the festival $100,000.
Fuck.
So it's like, that's where bringing in someone that is like able to laterally think and has had experience in this can sort of be really beneficial, because someone that's just coming in and doing it for their first time are not going to have those thoughts and ideas.
Yep.
And yeah, I guess so. So artist services, that's the advanced side is the logistics side, and then you've got the on ground stuff.
So there's sort of in that period there, you can like butt in if I'm wrong, but you've got the person who does the visas and stuff, like on Jess Foster's someone.
Jess.
So she just deals with that, the booking, the flights, etc., like the kind of like
She does the visas, and then they offer a similar service that we do, but we try and work together because, you know, like...
So that's a job. So you've got a job there where you just do visas and stuff for festivals?
Yep, job for visas.
The second one is actually logistics, like the travel agent. So there's a girl I can use, her name is Chantal, I can't remember her last name now, but she used to do it for Lucky. And her job was full-time, just flying people around the country, making sure they landed on time, accommodation, transfers, etc., etc. So that's a job.
Yeah.
Then the other one too is tour managing. So that's something you haven't touched on. But like most of these artists, like the bigger ones, they'll be... Someone will take care of them the whole entire time.
Yeah.
Someone might take care of 3 or 4 artists, but like there's a bunch of tour managers in the festival.
Yeah, it sort of depends. So Good Things Festival, they have local TMs that go with each of the bands, and that's expensive, but that's the way that they run it. We, for Promised Land, like, which is that example I was talking about before, because we had 100 artists and their teams coming in and out of the Gold Coast over 3 days. So it was, we didn't have TMs with them the whole time because they were literally, some of them were flying directly in from America or Africa or whatever it is and going straight in. But then we have our version of TMs, which is like an artist liaison. So when you get to the festival site as an artist, you get dropped off at the artist area.
And it gets handed over to someone else, who's on-ground team.
Yeah, and then the on-ground team. So then they have the checklist, they have the accred. Some big artists will request, like their tour manager will request the accred prior to, which is a great idea. So we'll go and we'll package up their accreditation and have it at the hotel. So
and the credit is like your passes to get into certain rooms.
Yeah.
It's like the list of the stage time, all the phone numbers, and etc. Kind of going on that too. So you're talking in this world where there's like more opportunities for people to work in, but there's all this pre-stuff. So you've got a booker who books the festival. You've got a design and marketing team. You've got production managers who build the actual, like the staging and stuff you're seeing.
Yeah.
You've got advancing agents. You've got tour managers. You've got people that deal with visas. So before you're even the festival,
safety. You've got security.
So you've got security managers.
You've got like the people that are like drawing up all the site plans. You've got the pre-build team.
Yep.
You've got the bars.
So before the festival even starts, you've got literally opportunity-wise, if you're looking at that for getting in the music industry, you've got maybe like 40, 50 roles you could look at getting into. And again, it's not necessarily going to be a full-time job, but there's 40 or 50 roles just before the festival doors open. So when the festival doors open, that's something that you guys deal with too. And then can you run us through like the ground crew?
Yeah, so the ground crew for artist services, it depends on the festival. So for a major festival where we're, say again for like a Promised Land or a Sold Out or a Good Things festival, we set up like different compounds. So, Tool, for example, they need their own compound. It needs to be locked down. It needs to have its own security point access in and out. You need to have a special sticker on top of your festival accred that they bring and travel with to get in there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So like your Slipknots, your Tools, your Georgia Smith,
Snoop Dogg,
these sort of ones, so that their security team, because they travel with a security team, they will literally be like, all right, you need to be in here, so come here, get the sticky. It's like this, like it's like a thing that sort of peels off, and then you just whack it on your accred or you whack it on anywhere, and then their team know that you're meant to be in there, because otherwise it just opens up for the amount of people that want to sneak a photo with tool, or want to sneak a photo with so and so, or just like see what they're doing, or try and catch Slipknot with their masks off, or like all of that sort of stuff.
That's interesting as fuck, because I've been involved in lockdowns, but not actually been inside a lockdown. So for me, it was like, you get backstage passes, and then everyone's like, lockdowns at 8, which is Snoop Dogg for this example. I've seen heaps, and then everyone's gonna leave, so you can't go in there. And then I didn't know how you get into the lockdown.
Yeah, so there's a lockdown from the start in the compound. So we build them a compound that has its own exits and is sort of hidden away. A lot of the time we build it in a way that a Viano or a car or whatever, a series of cars can drive all the way up inside the festival, inside the compound, and drop them at the dressing room door. That's the ideal world.
Another thing that's interesting is that you got, like, I've seen like Diane would, right? So they had that, and they rolled up and they had like a little zone. They drove in, they went straight on stage and back in their car. But then Megadeth were just wandering around backstage like if they were.
And it depends on the artist.
So like you get these massive artists that don't give a fuck, and you get other artists that aren't necessarily that big that really, really care. So
100%.
Like I remember watching Megadeth just walk out, smoke durries, and then walk up, and there was no lockdown. Like I was on the stair, like, just letting them come up.
Yeah, and it really depends on the team and on the artists. Some of them been touring for 30 years, and they just like it just needs to be in and out for them. It's like when some of them get off stage, so we'll have to have like the compound is normally like relatively close to stage, but we hardly ever get an artist to walk that, except for if it's like a super cool team and they're like who was it, like Heady One's team, they were just like this guy Chigo, who's like fucking legend. He was the TM, and he was like, oh no bro, we're gonna walk, we're gonna go and have a walk, and we're gonna go have a look, but stopped along the way every single point, like walking around with you at A3. It's just like continuous photos, but sometimes that stuff's something that the artist wants to do. But then you have to have options there that can get them to stage without anyone seeing them. So it's like, cool, this Viano will drop, then they'll go into the dressing room, and then we restage the cars facing the other way, so that then when they come out, it's ready to go that way, goes around to the stage, drops them off again, and then it's restaged to leave again. And if they're feeling like, there's like a bit too much going on back of house, a lot of the time they'll get off the stage, get in the car, and leave the festival. So I guess on ground team, we've got someone working on the artist accreditation gate, which can get hectic because so many people rock up saying, I'm on so-and-so's list, I'm on this person's list, I'm traveling with this person. Like, we've had like the funniest different people try and sneak in. Like, I had this photographer that snuck in Perth, and like he did such a good job that I was like, I'm giving you accreditation. He's like, I just want to show my he was from overseas, and he was like, and I'm like, how did you get back here? And he was like, I can't tell you the secrets. And I was like, I respect that. I don't know how you're here. This is like so tightly locked down. And he was just like, I just want to show my what's it called when you've got your lookbook of work?
Oh yeah. So, portfolio.
Yeah, portfolio. He's like, this is my portfolio. I'd love to shoot. And so this guy went from not having a ticket, this French guy, to rocking up, to getting into like one of the most secure areas, to then impressing me so much that I gave him a pass to go and shoot on the stage, because I was just like, this guy's amazing, and his photos were awesome. So the festival loved it as well, because I told them the story, and they were just, and then they get all these extra amazing photos, and they're like, who's this photographer? Like, and I was like, I don't even know his name because he jumped the festival, but we've got his photos and we got him in. And yeah, it's just.
But what I love about that is like it's a kind of a good moral to the story. It's like, people say, how do you get into the industry? Can you give me some advice? It's like, force your fucking way in.
Yeah, force your way in.
You've literally got to force your way in, because nobody wants to give you an opportunity, and you got to figure out a way to impress them. And because they're getting hit up all the time, because it's like working at Disneyland. Like, why would you not want to work in this industry? So everybody's like, oh bro, I'll do it for free. I'll do it for this. It's like, it's not good enough. Like, you kind of almost got to show, you've got to do something amazing, And I don't know, for me, it was the same as you. It's like, you've got to pull off some festival that's an event. But my my early days was I ran a show that was bigger than I should have. Yeah, like, and then everyone was like, this got like, now that I've got your attention, and I grew up from there. Same as you with you did Bayside Social, but it's super interesting. Is if the advice is force your way in,
and force your way in, and like
not in a rude way.
I wouldn't recommend like doing it in like an illegal way. That was probably
don't jump the fence and start tour managing.
Yeah, don't jump the fence and just start working. Like, even though it could be impressive, it's like it's probably not going to go down that well. But the biggest piece of advice that we give, and we do these industry talks every now and then, because like exactly this, like there's so much gatekeeping on this, and I don't really understand why. It's just traditionally been the way it is. People are very secretive about everything, about artist fees, about, you know, how to run a festival, how to do this. And I think a lot of it comes from fear of competition and, you know, fear of people finding out, you know, like ways to sort of like break into the industry and potentially...
It's also a disruptor's game. So the way you win in this industry is disrupt, and everybody did. And so everybody comes in and they did something that was polarizing or out of the box, and that's how they win. And they kind of go on from Untitled to fucking Daniel Tuma from A3, etc. Myself and all the boys that I work with, we all kind of came in underneath someone's rug and then pulled it out from underneath them, you know. So because of that, everyone's worried that who's the next guy is going to get them.
It's like the same thing that happened like when, you know, it was like, you know, that like stereo was like the top of the game, like, you know, and then it's like and your futures and stuff like that.
Fuck BTV, man, that's the one, right? So like that was Falls Festival and Splendor in the Grass kind of looked unstoppable, those guys took them out. Like
Falls Festival was like I was entering the ballot every year. I was like getting people that lived in Lawn to put in the fucking...
Like your mum and dad's email address, hoping to get tickets.
Like doing everything, and you were stoked, and you'd buy the tickets straight away, and you didn't even... I think it was like pre-line-up. Like, you know, like the only festival that sells out now pre-line-up is Strawberry Fields, and that's because of the experience that they put on.
And 4 kids that were running uni events took them out. Took out these guys who were like... Took out these... Arguably they're goats of the time.
They were. And that's where it's like... You know, I think that's where a lot of that sort of fear comes from of
gatekeeping,
of gatekeeping and sharing info, because if you hear stories and a little bit of a roadmap on how to make something possible, then people will go after it. It's like, and that's what, like, you know, for me, that's what it's been the whole time. It's like when Beyond the Valley started. I'll quickly finish on the artist services. Artist check-in, then you've got your artist liaisons. So they're the people that like are greeting the artists, taking them to their dressing room, making sure the hospital rider's all good, making sure any other requests are done.
They normally buy the hospital rider too, right? Yeah, so they sort of work the day before, and what they'll do is they'll make sure all the rider's done, because that can be pretty fickle. Like if you have the wrong tequila, people can actually crack the shits, and it can cause massive dramas.
People can lose it. Like, you know, we had... Like,
they might have to source some other stuff too that maybe is not...
they might have.
So you have to live it. If you want to be an artist liaison, you got to be okay with the grey.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of grey, and like people don't like. It's obvious. It's a music industry. It's like it's people try and shy away from it.
Well, without drugs, realistically, the creativity probably doesn't spark for the festival to run in the fucking first place.
Well, like it's what the rave culture was built on. Ecstasy. It's like, you know, it's something that's been a part of it, and like, you know, back in the day it was legal, like, and that's like, you know, those parties in the 90s and stuff like that was, you know, those pills and stuff, but that led to, you know, the creation of this like this subculture that, you know, a lot of this is sort of stemmed from.
100%.
So then, like, you know, there's artists that come out and, you know, they're smoking like, you know, 20 joints a day normally, but it's legal in their country. So they come out here and it's like, I need to be doing this, otherwise I'm thrown off my game for that.
Like I actually can't perform.
I can't perform to that. I don't feel comfortable. So it...
Another one which is pretty cool to talk about, well, not cool, but like bringing it up, is like anxiety, man. Like you get some guys who get like this chronic anxiety.
Yeah.
Weed, I would say, is probably number one that gets requested. It's like pretty common, especially if they're from America. They feel like everyone smokes it over there. But there's like the other one is that some people just don't. They need to like fucking drink half a bottle of tequila and do a couple of lines because they can't perform at the game because the anxiety's so bad. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but like if you're paying someone just stupid amounts of money and they've traveled for days, like you're not going to be like, oh no, you can't do that because that's it's against the law.
Yeah, like I don't have any drama in saying this. Hopefully Paris doesn't kill me, but like it's a part of it.
It's part of the parcel, yeah.
It's a part of the parcel. It's like if, an artist asks you for something, then, you go and find someone that can sort that out for them. Like, we're not there like doing it ourselves, but
of course, yeah. But that is definitely not grey. That's
not the grey. Yeah, but
it's such a weird thing because we're stumbling through it. But the reality of it is, you facilitate. You say, "Yeah, cool. This is the guy's number."
Yeah.
Or this is someone I know. But the other thing too is that in the industry, like we've talked about it before. I know you're on like a respite at the moment, but at the same time, like I've stopped doing drugs, but I did them. So who the fuck am I to say, "Oh, you can't do them"?
Yeah, exactly. And like when you talk about needing half a bottle of tequila and a few lines to get on stage, that was my crutch for from when I first started. I was like drinking and partying in a way that if you looked at it now, especially post-COVID, it's like would have been so worrying. But back then it was almost like accepted and almost celebrated. Like, and I look back on it and I'm like so happy to have got like past that and worked through it. But that was me trying to quell the like mental like anguish and the thoughts, and like I've got like pretty severe OCD. So for me, like alcohol and ketamine and these things would help get me to what I thought was
functional,
a level of functional.
The cool part too on that is like you're talking, it's like beforehand it was celebrated. So in the industry, some of the advice would have been like, hey, get good at partying, because it was a big thing.
Yeah.
Now it's like the other way around. Like if you party too hard, people are like, I don't want to work with that guy. It's done a full backflip.
And that's the thing. I was running parties and like promoting, and I was booking venues, but like I wasn't like often didn't have to go to the shows I booked. I pop in for an hour and check it and make sure that you guys were all set up and everything like that. But that was your party. My thing was putting the venue and the thing together, like when we did when we turned a lumber into Shed 9, and like those sort of things. But for me, when it got to a point where during COVID, like we were at like what was a peak for Happen Group, and we had like sort of 60 contracts across marketing, across bookings, across artist management, across like all the festival stuff, and everything like that. And we come back from pitch and all of a sudden all of that's gone overnight. And that sort of led to like a bit of a downward spiral, but also like a pivot. We started doing like takeaway meals for people in the industry, and then that snowballed because Paris is a mad cook. So we were doing it for people that weren't getting the government funds, and then we were selling it to friends and family. But we had to move into a commercial kitchen.
I remember.
Yeah, and so
pivoting is a good one too. Like if you want to work in this industry, you got to learn how to pivot.
You got to learn to pivot, and you got to look for those opportunities, and like also just keep your ears open. Like when Beyond the Valley first started, obviously I was working with the boys on nightclub stuff, and I was like, I've got the connections and what I think I can build a team for a festival like what we build for the clubs that can sell the festival tickets. And they were like, all right, sweet. Like they'd had someone do it the year before and had like maybe 80 promoters or something on. I think I put on like 500 promoters or something like that. And we did 5,000 industry tickets. And back then it was
hard tickets. Yeah.
And I was 23, so I made the mistake of getting everyone to bring the money in on the same day. So I had $1 million in cash that I hand counted on the fucking table with no security guard. And just like, but like that was an opportunity that I was like, cool, I know that I can build a community. I know that I can apply this to the festival. Guys, I want to do it. Like,
and there's another one, like when I remember one of the first gigs I got where I got paid weekly was I went to Billboard, and I was like, hey, you got a side room? let's name it. I'll do the photos in it separate to the event. I'll build a page. I'll run it, and I'll bring 100 people to it, and I'll book the DJs. And they're like, "Well, fuck, what do I got to lose?" And I asked for $500 a week at that time. So that was the beginning of like, okay, I've got $500. All I've got to do is check in, like you saying, and then now I'm going to build a Friday night, and then that made me money. And then I'm like, next thing you know, I was making a full-time income from it.
Yeah, and then you can use that team and the team you've got here. Like, so I was running a Thursday night, a Friday night, and 2 Saturday nights. They're all different people, and they were all different groups, and they all wanted different things, but they all fit under the banner of people that would want to go to a festival.
Yeah.
So when Beyond the Valley started, you know, I had this already existing team, but also knew, because I was booking parties, I knew all the promoters who were doing good numbers. So I go, you guys want to put on a team? And it literally is. It was a pyramid scheme, and it still is.
But you sell your network. Like, because there's one thing I was going to say before. I don't want to cut you off, but it's like, you don't get hired. In this industry, you normally traditionally go to someone with the opportunity, or they come to you with an opportunity and you kind of mold it. But people don't necessarily put up a job ad saying, hey, I want someone to become the head promoter for their festival, ticketing, etc. It's like and then what you're doing is, you know, when you're doing that for the festival, you're selling your network. And that's what I've done. I've sold my network for the last fucking 20 years. So someone comes to me, be it a festival event guy or a booking guy like you, and say, hey, I've got this space, come check it out. What I want to do is I want to negotiate a deal to make a cut off it from the bar and the door, but you're going to, the venue wants to give you access to make money in this venue and for your network. So you're exchanging, and you were just the middleman between making the conduit and connecting the lines.
Yeah, definitely.
And you were doing one step different to me. So I was a network seller. You had a network that you were selling too, but you're also going out there and liaising with people like me that had networks and then putting the conduit together. And you're like a broker of networks.
Yeah, it was sort of like, it works on so many levels, because it was like, and I think that's like one of the best things that I can recommend is to, if you can handle multitasking, it's to do a bunch of these different things, because it all feeds into each other. So, you know, I was selling that many tickets to the festival that I booked the Dr. Dan stage. So then I was able to book my artist on those stages and that I was managing. And then I was also able to, you know, build up like crews. So like I remember like the 1889 guys like Callum, like, you know, I gave him a takeover on the Dr. Dan stage, you know, before they were, you know, sort of like built up. And that definitely wasn't the thing. He was always going to make it as a promoter, and he was always going to do cool stuff. He does that Sonda Festival. He does like a bunch of other...
Yeah, I remember booking him at BSA back in the day when they were early. 189, right?
189.
Yeah.
But it gives you the opportunity to
help them grow,
give a platform.
Yeah, by default they grow for you.
But they're giving back, so it's like this whole ecosystem that sort of works. But then there's like other random shit that like, I was sitting in the office, in the Untitled office, and I was overhearing a conversation, and it was about market stalls, and someone had they were like, yeah, this company's like because they were trying to, like, the boys were doing it as well. They were learning on the fly, you know, how to do a festival and how to do it right. Like, we were young kids, so they were like, oh, cool, there's this company that's like really professional that, you know, knows how to do it. This is their set fee, and it was a pretty high fee for like managing a market stall area.
And like, I'm gonna have a whack at this number, but it's anywhere sort of between 10 and 20 grand, eh?
Yeah, 16.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
because I'm like, I knew that because I like, you know, my wife used to do it too for festivals.
Okay.
And it's a fucking massive job. For people who don't know, like, you got to go find 50 traders, go work through it, then you curate them because they've got to be the right people, and then you've got to like book them. There's power instructions. You've got to like do bump in, bump out.
Yeah, you've got to have. They've all got to have like their certain public liability insurances. They've got to have like certain marquees.
It's all going to be weighted, signed off by engineers. It's like it's actually a really, really big and important job.
It's a massive job, and a lot of promoters don't see it as much of a value add as I do to the festival. You know, it's like sometimes I have to convince people that it's a good idea.
And the reason why people don't want to do it is because it's a lot of fuck around, and the income, you know, it's not necessarily high because you don't charge them. Like you said, it's a value add, but you still do make a little bit of money, but for how much goes on.
Yeah. Either like a market stall vendor either pays a percentage of their revenue, or they pay like a set fee to be there.
And that's the same as food trucks, which I will just quickly go into. But like, if you're a food truck, you normally pay, there's a million ways to do it, but normally you'll pay like a electricity site fee, which is like say $400-500, and then you'll pay 20% of revenue. So they pay it back to the festival. So the festival then is in their best interest to be busy because they want to make that money off you. So it's sort of a symbiotic relationship. There's a whole politic version of this. Like the food trucks will say that they don't like the festival owners don't like food truck people, or not all the time, but it's
it's just clashes because there's
50. You got 20 different businesses, small businesses in your small business.
Yeah, and that's it. And with the market stalls, it's
the
like,
same thing.
It's like that on steroids because it's some of them are very, very, very small businesses, and they're maybe walking away with $100 or something at the end of 3 days trade if it doesn't sell or if they're put in a shit position. So
the hardest part about that job is after. So you have people that win and they're super thankful and they want to work for you again. And if someone's like, the butt of the back end of something or away from the stage, if something gets wrong, which is hard to predict because normally you're working in spaces you haven't worked in before.
Yeah.
But they're the first, they're the loudest. They come back and they're like, hey.
100%. And this is where so I heard this number, I heard market stalls and I had no idea about market stalls, but I like vintage clothes. And I knew Nocky from Froth Life. He started off selling, he used to bring a box of sunnies to the dance floor at Rainbow. The kaleidoscope sunnies or different types of sunnies and stuff, and so a bit of rave gear. And then that moved into him having a shop. And I was like, well, I just sort of bluffed it. And sorry boys, but I did bluff it. I was like, mate, guys, I can do the market stalls for you. No dramas. And so then for me, it was working backwards on how do I do the market stalls? But I was instead of going, okay, cool, this is how I would do it. I was hit up this guy Nocky and said, hey, would you mind having lunch with me so I can pick your brain? Because I was I want to understand what the pain points are from a market stall perspective and what's important for them. So then I can go back and curate a market stall village that ticks the boxes for the stall holders and is also in line with what the festival wants. So it was one of the, I don't know, I'm sure people have done it before, but for Beyond the Valley, we built the market stalls as the entrance into the main arena from the campground into the main sort of area. So they had the biggest thoroughfare.
The traffic flows straight past
sort of stuff. Because a lot of people would go, yeah, market stores cool, we'll put them in this back corner. Because no one cared about them.
Well, the other thing goes back to when you take a percentage, so it's food trucks or market stalls, it's in your best interest to have them be in the middle of the traffic because the more they win, the more you win, right?
Exactly.
And that's why I guess if you're a market stall holder, if someone wants to hit you with a flat fee, sometimes it's not the best option.
Yeah, and it's we do flat fees, but even so, it's you're not going to get those flat fees
all the time
back,
consistently.
Yeah.
They got to win.
I think I started off with maybe 15 stalls or something, and this is this is when we sort of first started, and I was trying to work out how to place them, how to space them, learning all of this sort of stuff, and I've got luckily I had some Jeff Moss and some of these amazing site operators really going above and beyond to lend a hand, because all they needed to do was sort of teach me what was important for them from a site perspective once. And then I was cool, I've got what's important for the market stalls and this. But yeah, that's another whole arm of our business now. We have 50 traders at Beyond the Valley. We do everything from fucking haircuts to glam to this and that to all the clothes and all of those sort of things. And then, yeah, it's just looking at it and going, cool, what's another gap? And when I made the decision to pull back from partying and take a more sober approach, one, what you said before, the credibility went through the roof because people knew that they could trust me. I couldn't work in artist services before I stopped partying.
Yeah, fair.
Because I was too loose, and you don't want a loose guy that's encouraging the artist to just be getting smashed.
Well, you do after the event.
Well, after
that's like another piece of the puzzle. You don't pay for that part.
You need to sub. You need to sub someone in for that. But everyone's up for that. Like,
that's the easiest job.
That's the easy one.
And then as people get older too, like the older guys who are promoting, they don't want to. Like guys like Mike Tony who do like 200 people. He doesn't want to always party with people. So often they are looking for someone who's up for it.
Mate, 100%. Who do I have to take? I had to take out this. Like, there's a guy over here from Germany that was looking at acquiring a few festivals and a few big companies here, and the team that he was like, the different groups that he was that they were looking at buying, they're like a Live Nation equivalent in Germany, and he was out here doing his research and meeting the whole team, and I had one of the guys come up to me at it was at like Pantera or something like that, and they were like, Macca, he's rinsed us. Like we're too old for this. He's had us out every night drinking, and like we're obviously like we need to do that. And I was like, don't worry, I got him tonight. So I took this like rock heavy metal promoter dude to Electric, Revolver, 161, like, and he had a rocking night and everything like that. But it's like there are those times where you need to be like,
you got to
you got to be hosting, and it's like less I place less importance on it than I did back in the day. But I think back in the day, a lot of it was coming from me trying to justify it to myself. I was like, oh, I'm creating relationships by being in the green room, and
I'm networking at Revolver at midday
and partying, you know, like this is
but it's still a personality business. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So man, I feel like this is a way bigger conversation. So what I'm going to do is kind of like go back through what we've done, and I'm going to call part 2 because I feel like we've just scratched the surface of this, and it's fucking cool. Like I don't do the whole give back to the audience and stuff, but like everything we've gone through has been sick from a learning perspective. So we've kind of covered currently like all the stuff beforehand, which is, you know, like, I don't even know what the term is. What do they call what Jess does again?
So Jess does like the visas, and she also
what's
does
actual the title of the
advancing?
It's advancing, right?
Yeah. So she's like a visa operator. I don't know what the actual
no, neither do I. So we won't go into it. But there's other things. So kind of going from the thing what we covered today is like, you know, there's music lawyers, there's people that do advancing and whatnot. Yep. There's actual people that do all the bookings and stuff, like almost like a music travel agent. You've got the team on the ground who are working with the artists to get them to, so delivering them to their festivals. Once they land there, you've got the people that take care of them, that are doing everything from the riders and managing the compounds.
Yeah, and making sure they get to stage on time. And
making sure they get to stage on time.
And make sure that they leave.
Yeah,
like, and
exactly.
Like some of them, like Busta Rhymes, couldn't get him to leave. I couldn't get him to leave. One, he played 40 minutes over. Two, I went up to him and I said, Busta, mate, like the whole festival's left. Like, I know we've told you a few times. And he was there, like, with it, playing music off his phone with his buddy and just, like, singing along and drinking champagne and whatever. And I was like, I'm going to leave you with your driver and the overnight security. They were the only people left on site.
So then you've got guys who security, but not just the security guards. You've got guys who are managing the security for the artists. They're managing security for the stages. And then you've got someone who does all the security plans. Yeah. There's people that do all the this liaising with the council and the sort of like
the permits,
procedures, legislation. They call it stakeholders, which is the safety officers too. That's another thing you can do. Then you've got this other thing too, which is stakeholders, with someone who deals with the cops, the council, and they sort of deal with all the. Someone like me probably isn't the best person to be talking to yarns and coppers and fire brigades and councils. So traditionally, you have a guy I use a guy called Dave Rubin. No doubt you know him.
Yeah,
so he does that. He's this very well polished music guy who understands us, but at the same time, he's really good with like the people who like legislation.
Yeah.
And then you've got the last one I wanted to touch on before we start going into this new thing you're working on at the moment, which is called Chapter, which is you going full circle, going back into the promotion game, is stage managers. So there's one more thing. And this is the thing. We have fucking scratched the surface. So if you've been looking to get into the music industry, we've probably named 40, 50 things you can do, but it's just begun. Like
I reckon
there's booking agents.
I reckon there's 20% of what goes into
and that's why there has to be part 2. So there's booking agents, there's management, there's A&R for record labels, labels. The list goes on, inside and outside festivals.
Side team. There's like everything that you see.
There's bookers for festivals, like people that get paid. A guy called Chris Shepard who works for Untitled, for example. There's heaps of them. Nick Greco's another one whose job is solely just to book lineups. Yeah,
Chris O'Brien is like he's the guy for good things, and
there's people that do that for venues. So we could go on and on and on, but we've just sort of touched the surface on this. So this could be, I reckon it could be a fucking part 3 thing. But the last one is, can you run me through the artist management stuff, and then we'll start talking about chapter.
Artist management or stage management?
Stage manager, yeah.
Yeah, so stage manager is like one of my favorite jobs. It's actually what Paris like really cut his teeth on and got like that level of respect as an operator from. So he was the stage manager on it was the organic audio stage back then, the one that Musker used to build that looks like it came out of the ground.
Well, even that, there's stage designers.
There's stage designers. Yeah, there's so much builders. Like my, even the other things. Like we run a wellness activation.
Yeah.
You know, in the wellness activation, you've got to build out the entire space, but then you've got to build out everything that goes in with it in terms of like booking all of the facilitators. There's volunteers, you know.
Volunteers, there's production managers.
300 volunteers for A3 that we manage.
And then someone's going to manage them.
There's gate staff. There's
so much.
Yeah,
and we're going to get into it also. After I'm going to go through this with a fine-tooth comb and start writing it down. I might even add it in the YouTube that sort of says what we talked about, but like that's the beginning of.
Yeah, that's the beginning.
So the stage manager's job is?
And so the stage manager's job is so there's prod stage managers, and then there's hospital stage managers. Some festivals combine them, especially if you've got someone like David Michelezzi, for example, because he knows the tech and knows the production side of it, but he's a fucking legend. So if an artist comes up, he can do the greet and everything like that. But for like main festivals, when you really want to look after the artist, and looking after the artist is so important because not only is it important to make sure that they're having a good time and everything like that for their performance, but artists talk.
100%.
They will go back and go, this festival
treated me like a king.
Queen. And king, queen, treated me like a prince, treated me like whatever. They will, other artists then will even look at taking a smaller fee because they know that it's a sick festival and that people have raved about it.
The other one too is people probably don't know is that when you're working in this space, it's like, say for example, Untitled, they'll like not own an artist. No one ever owns an artist, but if you do a good job by them, they continue to come out with you. So sometimes people will grow. Like there's a story, Petting Zoo full circle, but like Camel Fat for Kyle Hand, who originally sold them to Petting Zoo, but they were with him for 3 or 4 years until a big company comes, and normally someone offers way too much money.
Yeah, and like that's where it's
they steal them off you.
There used to be like a little bit of honor, but like at the moment it's so competitive that everyone's just going crazy and going overs and offering these insane deals where it's like it's like 95-5. Like
yeah, it used to be, I'd say 90% relationship based.
Yeah. But like Mike Toner's the best example of like keeping an artist. You know, like he brought out Patrick Topping the first time. Patrick Topping
I did that show at Revolver.
Stayed on his couch.
Yeah.
You know, and now Patrick Topping even though he gets offers from all of these other promoters,
he won't move.
And bigger money, will not move from
There's
Mike
heaps of them.
because Mike's a fucking legend, and Patrick is in a position where he can put his foot down to his agent and management and be like, I'm not coming to Australia with anyone but Mike.
Yeah. So stage managers, so when they come up,
managers
normally someone delivers them to them and then they take care of them.
Yeah, so what will happen is the artists will normally let us know how long they would like to be at the stage before their set. So some of them might like to rock up 5 minutes before, which can, be a little bit hairy, especially if you're driving through the mud at A3 on a golf cart, trying to get them there. But they will let you know roughly when they want to be there. It depends on what their setup and everything is like that. But essentially, the stage manager will radio over and go, cool, we're ready for so-and-so. Or we'll radio over and go, hey, so-and-so wants to come down to the stage. Stage manager will be there to greet them, get their hospital in the right area, make sure that like every time that they need a drink top up or anything like that, they're right there. They're that point of contact for the artist, so the artist feels comfortable. They turn around, they go, yep, cool. I know that person is who I need to go to, or often it's the tour manager that's there. But then they're also in charge of who comes on the stage. So, you know, some artists want a full group of people there. So they might go into the crowd and pick a bunch of like mad dancers and get them up, like people that are having an awesome time and getting them up behind, because then that's awesome content for the artist. But then some artists, you know, will have it completely locked down. So like for a Tool or a Slipknot, for example, it's like there was one of the shows I didn't even have my sticky, so I couldn't even get into the stage myself, and you know, we're looking after them. So the stage manager role just depends on the festival. For electronic festivals, it's like one of the funnest jobs.
I never did it, but if someone offered me, I'm going to put the call out. If someone offers me to do stage managing, I will say yes. So I've managed to.
I'm going to offer you stage managing.
Oh, it's sick because I've managed tour artists. Like when you're the TM for the festival, that's sick. Yeah. You go over there before and you're like, hey, it's all the mics all ready, rah rah.
Yeah.
I love that, but doing stage managing all day would be so good.
Is like, to be honest, it's like it's very important, but it's mostly about big smiles,
good vibes,
quick on comms, you know, and being able to. You're also keeping an eye out.
You got to understand the language too, because they could be asking something like, "Hey, what's the booth?" or "What's this?" or "Where's this?" or you got to be able to know everything's on the stage, so you can go. It might not be you this who you contact, but you be able to hit the prod guy and go. The light's not working.
Next to you, and you can just go straight down to them and go, "This is what's happening." Like this is like, you know, this CDJ. It's like, because like sometimes, you know, a CDJ will just skip or it'll get rained on or whatever.
Probably helps to understand the gear too.
And so you've got to like unplug that whilst like someone's doing an emergency loop or whatever and plug it back in. And if you can do that in a smooth way and a calm way, then it helps everyone stay calm, including the artist.
Don't fucking panic.
Don't panic. Then we're not saving lives, you know, like we're that's one thing to always remember in events. It's just an event. It gets like, people get very, very, very stressed. And it's really important to be able to take a step back and go, this is important. This is important for a lot of reasons, but it's not life or death, or most of the time it's not life.
Yeah, but if something fucks up like a CDJ, it's like no one's dying.
No one's dying.
Yeah,
no
that's
one's
a good
dying,
point.
And yes, the artist might be upset about it, but everything gets tested before.
The show goes on is what I love to say, right?
The show does go on.
So, Macca, you've gone back now to your original roots. You've gone and done all this stuff, and we've only fucking in over an hour. We've only touched on a small amount of it, but you've gone back to your original roots, and there's an event coming up on New Year's Eve called Chapter.
Yeah. So
can you run me through what motivated you to do that and what the concept is?
For sure. So I guess like we've been working and running promoter teams like nationwide for so many people for so many years. And you know, we used to run a lot of our own parties. Like we ran Living Room Festival, was like one of our like first ones that we did with Dan from Novel. And then, you know, we were running these Burn City disco parties, and we were running these like Christmas Eve parties, and so they were all sitting around that like 1,000 to 4,000 cap. And I loved those shows, but when, you know, life changes, like my business partner had a baby, and, you know, we needed to work out, okay, cool, these are the safe contracts. You take the safe contracts because you need the security, and I'll stay on my side and build up new businesses, and I'll find some other income, you know, elsewhere, because, you know, like that's what you do when, especially like he's my best friend first, and then he's my business partner. So after coming back together, we went into like full contract mode. So, you know, doing like front gate, volunteers, artist management, artist services, like event management, like end-to-end sort of operations, like tour managing, all of that sort of stuff, and then running these promoter teams. And it got to a point where it's like, okay, cool, things are, you know, starting to level out. Like we had a festival, Promised Land, like that we did all this work for, and, you know, never got paid for it. So it was like 150 grand, you know, after we'd built that back up to a point where, like, you know, we're back surviving. It was like, okay, cool. We've always loved parties. We've always loved running parties. We want to sort of, you know, just have like one thing a year that we do. And, you know, it's like, obviously, like we're a fair bit older than the crowd of Beyond the Valley now, and my team goes and runs like the wellness area and the market stalls, and it's just like, I want to do something over that period. I think New Year's like can be really special, and it can also like often be like so hyped up and then a letdown. So it was just like, this is a time where, you know, we can bring all of the experience that we've had over the years and put a lot of love into creating something that is not just your average slap together event. And it's been a mission. It's been the hardest show I've ever worked on, like, and just for so many reasons, you know, like I've never had an artist signed and contracted and paid for and then stolen, you know, like that was a new one for me.
Pretty fucking unheard of.
Yeah. So like Bullet Tooth, like was locked in for us, you know, signed, contracted, paid for, and someone got wind and went over the top, and, you know, they reverted back on that. So we had like a bunch of those things. We had Yuseki Yakamatu like pretty much almost locked in, and then he got a massive offer for Japan. So, you know, it was sort of like trying to build this thing, and it was with the guys at Pika rang me and said like, you know, would you come and do it there? So we were like going to do this outdoor stage and dump sand and do all this sort of stuff, and then the lineup that we got probably didn't validate the amount of numbers that we needed, and also I think we, you know, underestimated how much else was going to be in market. Like Underworld being on the same day, like I want to go to Underworld, you know, and if I could teleport, I'd teleport from my show to Underworld, and there's a bunch of other things like that. So we've moved to the Timber Yard. We've got, you know, some really amazing international artists, like Gian on Earth is back. Like he just played an awesome set at Strawberry, and he's DJing with like one of my really good friends, Andy Hart. So they're playing it back to back. They actually played the back to back at the Strawberry Fields staff party at the end. So they have this like little private like staff party in the Saki bar at the end, and it was 4 hours of absolute bliss. We've got Hiroko Yamamura, Laidlaw, and then like you know, a bunch of like the crew that we sort of like, you know, look after, and that people really love from a local perspective, like your Laura Kings, your Jamron Kumis, your Sashas, your Ollie James and Sunshine bringing in the New Year's.
Fuck yeah.
We've got Laidlaw, who's another really cool act from the UK, and yeah, the whole thing for us is like just about bringing back that like vibe of the dance floor. It's like our crew used to be, to the point where like at some of the doofs we would have the people in front of us not watching the DJ, they'd be watching the chaos that was happening behind us, and it's like all of us just going nuts and like, you know, pulling out. Just
especially Paris, bro. That guy can fucking move.
He can move, man. He can move. Like you, and like he'll get whipped on the dance floor. He'll get his ass out and get like someone will have a belt and like and.
In my A3 video, if you check out there, we're in that dark room. You can see a couple of his moves. He's got his top tied up.
He's got the top tied up, and
he's the support artist behind the DJ.
Dude, he's rocking. He goes to me. So, what do you want me to do for chapter? Like what do you want me to do? And I said, mate, I want you on the dance floor. I don't want you working. I want you on the dance floor rocking. And that's the sort of vibe. It's just like, wanted to be, we want to get back into sort of running shows. We've still been promoting shows, but it's been a long time since we've done an electronic music thing that's really like close to home. Like we've
goes back to your roots.
Yeah, but it goes back to our roots. But it's been awesome promoting other shows. Like we've been doing like Amapiano and Afro beats. Like we did Major League DJs. We've done like all of these sort of other artists. We're doing like comedians. We've just come off a podcast, like a live podcast tour. We're doing like light and sound experiences and all of this sort of stuff. But music is where I started. Electronics music's where I started. New Year's Eve has traditionally been like a time where, you know, I absolutely love being around, you know, like some of my best friends and like bringing in that new year and starting that new year on an amazing note, and that's basically what we want to do. So yeah, it's coming up pretty quick. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, would love for you to check it out, and yeah, maybe we can drop like a little a little limited like discount code or something for anyone that's listening to the pod or
If you're into good people and you're into good times, and that's a fucking festival to go to, Macca. We're gonna wind up. We went over an hour, and I think we're gonna. This series is gonna be like fucking 4 hours in the end, but. There's a whole bunch of other shit too. So next time, if you're watching this, definitely subscribe because we're going to talk about a story. You talked about Afro beats, etc., where everything went tits up as a booker, and it was a big fucking drama. On top of that, running living room, winning and losing, but losing a whole bunch of cash on a festival. We're going to go into the good, the bad, the ugly, getting ripped off. You talked about it, but the Promised Land thing, not getting paid. There's so many fucking cracker yarns that we haven't even touched on today because we've been educating.
This was less yarny, more like trying to I guess
explain what we do,
what goes into it and what goes behind, and we're running these like industry insight night things, so we'll link like a little WhatsApp chat like where we get people from the industry to come down, like a lot of people that we've spoken about on this. I'm
yet to do it, but I have committed. So
yeah, but like Mike Toner was at the last one, and it's something that gives opportunity for people to directly ask someone these questions of someone that they want to emulate or be like. So yeah, I feel like this one probably wasn't as like
yarny. Yeah, it doesn't need to be though. So
there's stories that will blow your absolute fucking mind.
And we'll get into all that.
It was probably important to just start setting the
opportunity. That's what I'm going to call it. So I haven't done it yet, and this is going to be no doubt called to how to get into the music industry or music industry for dummies or some shit like that. But this is an ongoing series, so please subscribe to keep watching it if you enjoyed it, and let us know if you did. Thank you, Macca, for coming down, my brother, and we'll chat soon.
Absolute pleasure.
Yeah, that was cool. I like that. And in my head, I was like thinking about the whole time. I'm like, oh, how to. Yep.
Macca, also, I couldn't keep checking the audio. So I didn't want to cut the streams. You guys were on a good run, but I figured it was still working because there's no reason it should have stopped even though that happened.
Yeah, it's still going.
And fuck, my heart was just thinking then. I was like,
I was gonna check, but